I'm Vrinda Loiwal. During the lockdown, our lifestyles have been disrupted, but one thing that does not need to be disrupted is learning. Join me for my 7-part series on this with fomonomore. See you there.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Vrinda Loiwal, and I'm from India. It is my pleasure to be here today on fomonomore, and I'd love to begin by introducing myself. So I've been in the field of education for about 9 years. It started with me joining something called the Gandhi Fellowship in the year 2012. And it was a 2-year rural fellowship program where I and other fellows like myself were placed in rural Rajasthan. And we were in a support role to government school teachers and principals there. While we did that 2-year fellowship program, we were also asked to live with the local community there. And I'd like to share just 2 profound experiences that I had during that experience. The first was that while I lived with one particular family in the village with them, I noticed how the design of learning experiences for the classroom were completely divorced from the reality of the consumer, the child. So something as simple as say anar was something that was unrelatable to the children. These were children who had never seen an anar or a pomegranate, yet they were learning say anar. They had never smelled one, they had never seen one, they'd never tasted one. It felt alien to them. And so much of how learning is designed in the classroom is alien to the consumers. The second thing I noticed in that 2-year experience was that the social and emotional aspect of a child's development is completely neglected in the Indian public education system. And what I mean by that is that we have a lot of focus on the intellectual part of the brain and the cognitive part of learning, and all of our learning is based on, is the child able to do math, or is the child able to learn language at the requisite level, all of which is required. But we don't even begin to address how is the child feeling today, what motivates the child, what gets them excited, what are they scared of, how well are they able to socialize with their friends? Are they having difficulty making friends? Did they recently have a conflict with someone in the class? How are they doing at home? What is their family life like? These are questions we don't even address, not in the education system and not in our families. And it has a profound, profound impact on a child's ability to function and a child's ability to grow. We know from research extensively done over the last 30, 40 years that when a child is not able to bring his whole self into the learning process, he or she is often not able to focus on what is being taught. Imagine if you just had a fight with a close friend of yours. Would you be able to focus immediately on a math problem then? Probably not. Even as adults, we struggle with that. The solution is not to become all feelings focused, but I do think that it is important to acknowledge that children are whole human beings and that it is important to address their whole selves when they come into a learning environment. And with that, I took on the mission of making learning relatable, engaging, and fun for children, and making sure that all learning processes mainstream the social, emotional, and cognitive, all 3 aspects of a child's development. Today, I run the Center for Social Emotional Learning, through which I work with different clients, different collaborators who are interested in bringing this sort of learning to their children. It could be a textbook publishing company, it could be a school, it could be a curriculum developer, it could be an ed tech company. All of us are in it for the children. And we at the Center for Social Emotional Learning are here to help you reach children and make sure their whole selves are addressed. on to today's topic. Today's topic is, how are our children doing in this lockdown? Has their learning been disrupted? How do we ensure that their learning continues? So for today's topic, I would like to begin by sharing that yes, learning has been affected during the lockdown. Just like for adults, we have been impacted by the lockdown, so have our children. They are suddenly at a loss for why is it that they are not able to go to school? Why is it that they're not able to meet their friends? Why is it that learning suddenly has to happen on a digital device? And play is such an important part that we forget. But children have a natural tendency and uh, a need to play, and so much of their play has been disrupted at this time. um, Lack of routine is something that they're struggling with, not knowing when they're supposed to study, when they're supposed to relax at home. It's also a little hard for them to focus now that they're supposed to learn online, which a lot of them have never done. So given that this is a challenging time and circumstance for our children as well, let's look at what schools have been doing in this time. So number one, in terms of the school calendar, a lot of us have noticed that our school calendars have shifted or are shifting. Schools have been put off at least till July. Promotions that usually happen in the months of March and April have, for grades 1 to 8, have happened by the no detention policy in our country. So all students who were in first grade, second grade, or up to the 8th grade have been promoted. And as for grades 9, 10, 11, 12, depending on which board they're in, students have been notified whether their exam will happen later or not. In some schools, like international schools, marks have been awarded to students based on their results from previous examinations, and then they've been promoted. In terms of learning, though, what does a 2 to 3 month break in learning mean? A 2 to 3 month break in learning for students means that it has a different impact on different students. So think about it this way. There are some students who are naturally very, very excited about learning, and while they still have books, they'll go through them even in their own time. But there are a lot of students who need the teacher attention, who need special attention from teachers, who need their peers, and it's only when they discuss and learn together that they learn best. And for these students, learning is severely impacted. Also think about students who have different needs. So we know students who have different physical needs, but there are also students who have different learning needs. While switching to online learning, are their needs being met completely and in the way that they would have? These are questions we are beginning to now see. Schools everywhere are really trying their best to minimize this impact. And, at one end of the spectrum, there are the high income schools, for example, an international school, wherein they already were using a lot of technology and edtech tools to facilitate some of the learning. Some of their assignments were already happening online even before the lockdown. That is what we call a blended learning model, where part of the learning is happening in person with teachers and part of it is happening online. So for these international schools, the shift has been more from blended learning to now completely digital. But on the other end of the spectrum are low-income schools, most of which have been completely traditional in their approach of one-on-one in-person teaching. And for them, it has been a completely drastic change from 100% in-person classroom teaching to 100% digital. And here, of course, we're seeing a lot more challenges. And, there are challenges. There are so many challenges that teachers are facing with regards to how do I address 30 students over a Zoom screen? I'm doing it for the first time. I've never been trained in it myself. How do I make sure that when I'm teaching algebra over a Zoom call now, how do I ensure that my children are actually hearing what I'm saying, are able to watch the video that I've sent them, are able to make sense of it? And how do I make sure that I catch them if they make a mistake so that I can help correct their understanding? These are challenges that teachers are facing for the first time. Parents are also facing some challenges with digital learning. It's hard to manage this new method of teaching. It's hard to manage how much screen time is too much screen time for my child. It's hard to have, maybe multiple children at home, each of whom now need a device and have their own digital learning that has to happen at home while the parents themselves are working from home as well. And if we talk about students who come from low income backgrounds, there's one smartphone in the family, and over that smartphone, all the children have to make do with their learning. So these are certain concerns that parents are having, and for the first time, they're being faced with the prospect of considering that digital learning might actually have to be the way to learn right now. And that's daunting. It's unsettling in a way. At the same time, it does mean that the required shift and the required buy-in that is required for parents to come on board, the opportunities that lie in digital learning are also happening right now. So some things are going extremely well. And for the first time, parents are seeing the amount of work that teachers put in at school and the kinds of new learning methods that teachers have developed to make sure that children learn well and learn what we call deeper learning of any subject. There's a new appreciation for the amount of work and the quality and the dedication that teachers put in. At the same time, with teachers who have been trained in these last 2 months or earlier on digital pedagogies, some teachers are finding it easier to grade certain assignments because there are tech tools that allow them to do the grading easier. And for children are some children are able to voice their concerns and doubts better when they don't feel visible in front of a classroom, and when they're ready to, silently send a question to their teacher over an email. So there are pros and cons both, certainly, to online learning. But one thing that we're seeing world over right now is that for the whole world to come on board to a digital learning ecosystem, it is required to have some changes at each level. So, for example, at the teacher level, how do teachers make digital content for teaching algebra or for teaching an English lesson? Is there a way that teachers can be supported in that? I'm a big proponent of helping teachers become professionally developed in this skill, and I do believe it is required right now to help them gain their professional expertise in creating content on their own, in identifying edtech tools that will help them do so in an easy and intuitive way, and making goals for students crystal clear, making learning goals crystal clear, making plans. This week we're going to study linear equations, and you know what, on first day we're going to watch these videos on how to solve linear equations. On day 2 we're going to see where all linear equations are applied. Maybe on day 3 students are going to do some worksheets, and maybe on day 4 there'll be a quiz. So creating plans that are functional on technological platforms is something teachers can be trained in doing. And a lot of these platforms, for example, Google Classroom is a fantastic example. It is a learning management system that allows for teachers and students to have all of these features: quizzes, videos, question answers, discussion groups. So all of this can be done online if there is training for teachers on how to do so. Similarly, If teachers are being trained on using the technology, it is also important to give them the professional development on what pedagogies or what ways of teaching lend themselves best to the digital platform. So clearly, a discussion or a debate where there's a class separated into two groups is hard to do on a digital platform unless it is planned for. So, can we help teachers identify which pedagogies or which methods of teaching lend themselves best to which digital platforms? That's another really big, beautiful area for professional development for teachers in this time. And I'd like to share that there are a lot of tools available. So let's take a look at some of the tools that exist. For learning management systems, Google Classroom is super user-friendly, super effective. For making video content, let's say you're sharing a video on linear equations like we've been talking, Khan Academy is a great resource. But also resources like Ed Puzzle, which allow the teacher to pause the video midway and put in a question that students have to answer, and only after they answer the question can they move on to the rest of the lesson. That's a great tool for making learning interactive over a digital platform. For quizzes, Kahoot is a beautiful game that works as a quiz that students can play wherever they are. They can be situated wherever they are, and it's a quiz game that can be played with students. And you can make that quiz about your lesson. Quizlet, again, is a quizzing app and super effective at this. If you want your class to brainstorm on a topic together, Padlet is a great virtual tool for class brainstorm. It populates all the students' responses on one platform, on one dashboard of sorts, where students can see other people's ideas. And of course, the newest, and I've used this last month itself, is the Zoom breakout rooms are fantastic for small group teaching. So let's say we're doing algebra, the example that we've been taking all along, and the teacher finds that there is one group that's struggling with, the very basics, fundamentals of linear equations, and there's another group that's doing advanced level of the same equations. So how is it possible to separate these two groups and teach them at their separate levels? Yes, it is possible. Zoom has created these breakout rooms where half the group can break out into this room and learn what they need to learn here, and the other half can break into this room and learn what they need to learn here. And this is what we call differentiation in education. And differentiation is what equips us, allows us as teachers to be able to meet the needs of children at their learning levels. This has been super challenging during this time, during the lockdown. For a lot of teachers, the struggle has been that there are 40 children on my platform, and I don't know their learning levels, and I certainly don't know how to address them. So how do I differentiate my lesson plan to then meet their needs? And I think the breakout rooms is one way of solving for that. I'm going to pause here for a minute and just take a look at your comments and questions and see if there's anything I can address. Also, if you've just joined us, welcome. Today's session is on understanding EdTech solutions during the lockdown and helping our children feel supported in their learning through technology. Welcome to the fomonomore page, and I hope that you do like, share, and join us in this family. Right, so we have a great question about, as teachers, how do we create a space for emotions and relationships on Zoom calls and Microsoft Teams? I love this question. Thank you so much for bringing it up. And I'd like to actually talk about why this question is important. So learning, before anything else, is a social process, and it's an emotional process. It is when we're motivated to learn that we engage in learning processes and really give ourselves to it. And it is through wanting to do better, wanting to collaborate better, and become better people, which happens in classrooms through peer learning, that we want to learn more. So great question. And how do we allow for a space that encourages students and teachers to share their emotions and build relationships? I think to start with, it's very important for teachers to check in with their students on how they're doing. So simply asking, how are you, at the start of the call is a great way to begin. There are lots of activities, 5-minute activities you can do on a Zoom call that will help children quickly tune in to themselves, how they're feeling, how ready they are to participate in the classroom that day. And for the teacher to get to know that, okay, 20% of my class today is just feeling very frustrated. And 40% of them are ready to learn and they're motivated and they've done their homework and they've come. These are very important for teachers to know, to be able to address student learning, and super important for students to feel heard, included, and valued, especially during this time of social distancing. Another thing that I would suggest is that teachers develop a way to be in touch with their students offline, like out of class time, if there's a way to quickly check in with your students or ask students to pair up where students can check in on each other, that's another beautiful way to do that. There can be some assignments that you give to students where not only do they have to solve that algebra worksheet, but they also have to maybe answer one reflection question at the end about how did they solve that algebra question? Where did they struggle in that worksheet? Where did they feel they were capable of this topic? Where did they feel they needed more support? These small reflection questions go a long way in the teacher understanding where her students are at, and in the students, again, finding a place to express how they're doing with regards to that learning. I'm looking for other questions and comments. Right, so there's another question about our students who come from low-income backgrounds. And the question acknowledges that it is hard for these students to sometimes even access devices because they do not have the same devices that their peers do. There might be only one smartphone in the family, and that too only in urban areas. In rural areas, even that is rare. So how is their learning being impacted and how can they be supported? I was talking to a friend of mine who runs an NGO doing exactly this. He supports students from low-income backgrounds. And one amazing technique that he devised for this was he started sending assignments to students on WhatsApp. Now, the amazing thing about WhatsApp is that everyone's on it. Anyone who owns a smartphone in India is on WhatsApp, and it is fairly intuitive to access WhatsApp. So they've been sending assignments and videos for learning on WhatsApp, and they've asked parents of these children, if the children are in elementary school or older children, to respond on WhatsApp itself as to how far or how much of the learning has been accomplished, how much of the assignment has been done. And since a lot of the parents are not literate themselves, and they have 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds who are in school who are getting these assignments in literate forms, um, this friend of mine is using a visual method to get an idea of how many students have completed their work and how well. So something as simple as, you know, how WhatsApp allows you to share pictures and actually draw on the picture. So he's created all these assignments in visual symbolic forms and has created a checklist for them that parents just have to check mark by drawing on the picture in order to communicate back to the teacher if the work has been done or not. And I thought that was a brilliant idea and it's working extremely well. So innovative ideas like that will have to be thought of in order to support children who either don't have access to their own devices or don't have the technological fluency, the internet um, to be fully supported in their learning. All right. Yes, we have another teacher here who has shared that collaborative projects are another alternative to assessments and a great way to maintain group relations. That's absolutely a great idea. Collaborative projects where students need to collaborate online or need to collaborate over phone with their friends, or build something together on a tech platform are completely very good ideas. We have a question here about, like you said, playtime is as important as learning and the kids cannot meet their friends. What to do? I'm so happy that this question has come up, because as adults, I think we often forget how important play is, and we find our entertainment in watching TV or just being on social media. But children need play, children need exercise, children need the creativity and the collaboration that comes from just being at play. Children need to get hurt when they're playing to really feel like they've spent some energy. So, what to do during lockdown? Well, first of all, I would say play a lot of indoor games, and there are a lot of indoor games that exist. Ludo King, for example, is one game that has just soared during the lockdown. A lot of people have downloaded Ludo King on their mobile phones. Um, and so there are these other games as well, indoor games that can be played, as well as we need to find ways to still help children expend their energy while they're indoors. So skipping rope, dancing, doing Zumba. These are all great examples of exercises that can be done at home. If they're done as a family, they can become playtime, because playtime requires collaboration, requires other people to play with you. So why not we have the father and the child play? Why not we have the mother and the niece play? It's a great time to bond as a family and play together. We have a parent here who's saying that yes, teachers are doing quizzes and on Zoom, they're sharing presentations. What are other features they can add to add value to students? This is a great question. Various other features like the collaborative project that our other friend talked about, combining some playtime, combining quizzes, combining assignments, combining projects that students have to do on their own, but they have to keep building on it week on week are great ways to do it. It's a great time for getting children to read a book, a novel, that will require them some time, and maybe you can do weekly check-ins. So it's a time to be innovative for teachers as well. There are lots of ways we continue to learn. And we just need to think outside of the school curriculum box sometimes to do that. There's a great question here about, children take teachers seriously, but do they treat their parents the same way? Uh, well, so I have heard from some parents that this is the first time they're spending 24 hours for this many number of days with their children, and that's daunting in its own way. Like, there is a lot more potential for conflict, and there is conflict between parents and children when they're together for such large expanses of time. And and I think the parent-child relationship is being re-examined during this time by both parents and children. Um, it is not unusual for children, especially 10 years and above, to be a little disrespectful towards their parents. It's not unusual. It's completely appropriate almost for their age, where they begin to question you as a parent and where they begin to speak their own mind and disagree with you. I think what is crucial is to understand that your child has a mind of their own. They have their own dreams and their own fears and their own way of thinking because of their unique experiences. And can we, as parents and children, have dialogue? So, a great opportunity for dialogue is opening up, where parents can start to share their own selves and experiences from their own lives. I remember when I was a child, I didn't hear too much about how my father's day was. So if we ever asked him how was your day, he would say okay, and he would say okay every single day for the 18 years that I was at home until I left for college. And I think this is a great time to break that and actually start talking and sharing that I had a good day today. I got to be really productive, or I had an unproductive day and that makes me feel a little sad. How was your day? I think this is a great time for that dialogue to start happening. It also encourages children to open up about their lives and how they're dealing with every day. Um, and that's beautiful, isn't it? We have a comment here about completely agree. It is important for teachers and schools to think beyond curriculum and completion of that curriculum and assessments. Personally, I feel this is an opportunity to build competencies and mindsets that are required, but fail to see the light of day. This is beautifully put. There are certain competencies and mindsets that all of us as human beings require, and they never get the time of day because we're so constantly involved in trying to finish curriculum and trying to finish the syllabus, in learning for this test, and making sure we get the marks that we need, and all of that is important. But this is also a great time to talk about the mindsets that are required to learn in the first place. And what is it that the child is enjoying learning? What is the child interested in? What is the child not enjoying? Where are they feeling stuck in their life? This is a great time to have these questions as well. All right, here we have a question about how might this time change the way students learn? In terms of their skills and competencies as a learner, how might this time change the way students learn? Well, I think we're in that uncomfortable period where the traditional method of learning is not working for us anymore, and we've been thrown into the deep end of the pool where we have to do digital learning. And by we, I'm saying students, teachers, parents, all of us have just together been thrown into the deeper end. And I think if it's done well, if it's done patiently, persistently, and with a little bit of joy, students will come out having learned to navigate a new way of learning. I mean, aside even from the technological fluency that they'll gain from this, I think they'll learn that there are different ways to learn, and that's beautiful in its own way, because the world is going to keep changing, and uh, the way I learned when I was in school is not the way students today are learning. And when these students, become adults, it's not going to stay the same. So I think it's a good lesson for students to also learn that things are not always constant, and change is inevitable, and how well we manage that change and adapt to it is part of the growing up process. There's a question here from a parent about being exhausted, playing Ludo, Carom, doing dance and exercise, and just being exhausted. I completely understand what you're saying. I'm not a parent myself, but I've been a teacher, and being a teacher is a little bit like being a parent. I completely feel what you're feeling about the exhaustion that comes with just trying to keep your child engaged. And I so appreciate you for wanting new innovations on how to keep your child engaged and happy. I would love to touch base with you after this call, Neeraj, and actually help you through this. It would be my pleasure to come up with some activities that you can do with your child. At Center for Social Emotional Learning, we do come up with a lot of at-home activities that you can do with your child, and I'd love to help you out. All right. There's a question about what will happen when students have to go back to school after this learning from home period. I'm not sure, to be honest. I'm firstly not even sure when they're going to get to go back to school in the way that they used to. I know that some countries around the world have already decided that students are going to come back to school in July, but they're going to come in a staggered way, meaning half the class is going to come 3 days a week and the other half of the class is going to come 3 days a week, which means that at any point of time, the class is only going to be half full. And as for India, I'm not even sure right now when that will happen or how it will happen. But again, I think blended learning is something that's inevitable now. And blended learning, again, going back to what it means, is combining in traditional in-person classroom teaching with teaching online. That is the way to go. And the beautiful thing about blended learning actually is that it's fairly effective. There are a lot of things that can be done digitally that take more time if they're done in the classroom, such as your 8th grade students. They're old enough to read a chapter on their own at home, and you can ask students to do that part at home and come prepared to the classroom to actually have a discussion on it, or to do a Socratic seminar where they have to voice their opinions on it. That collaborative exercise can only be done in a rich, deep way in the classroom, and that's what classroom should be used for. The more mechanical things, or things that students do become capable of doing independently, can be done digitally. Things like attendance, things like grading multiple choice questionnaires can be done much more efficiently by a digital technology than by a teacher, grading each one separately. And we need to be able to recognize what functions of technology lend themselves really well to what functions of the teaching process. And similarly, what particular aspects of learning, deep learning, need human interaction, need collaboration, need discussion, need debate, need empathizing, need creative thinking, need people to come together and brainstorm ideas. So I think as long as we're able to, know what function is served best by what learning pedagogy, I think we're good. All right, and I think we're we're almost at the end of our session. I would love to invite all of you to like the fomonomore page and follow, and please share with others if you're interested. This has been a fabulous community to share our skills, our opinions, our expertise in, and it has been so great. To have all of you here with me today. I'm learning a lot with the questions and the comments that have come here. So thank you so much for being here. And I really look forward to seeing you tomorrow, same time at 9 p.m. Tomorrow's discussion with me is with an absolutely fantastic person who will be talking about sexuality education in the Indian context and how do we teach children about our bodies, about sex, about consent. Do join at 9 p.m. tomorrow. Thank you.